Good morning or good afternoon, pardon me. I'd like to welcome you to an information session for University of East London. My name is Victoria and I am the facilitator for the meeting. My function is to start and stop and remind you of any housekeeping tasks. So first, I would like to let you know that though you do not have audio, meaning chat features or microphone, and you do not have video, we cannot see you or hear you, but the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen is how you are going to be able to ask your questions to Annabelle and Caitlin. They'll have about 45 minutes to speak with you. That will include a question and answer session at the end. I will encourage you to stay on through the end of the webinar because I do have a slide to show for you to remind you of some things to follow up with and to let you know how to access a recording of this. So I will turn it over and I hope that you get some great information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victoria. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Caitlin Benania, and I am the International Recruitment Officer for North America at the University of East London. I am joined by my colleague Annabelle, who is our America's Recruitment and Special Projects Manager. I will be discussing my East London experience, my time as a student up until now as a staff member. It'll be approximately 30 minutes and then we'll leave a 15-minute Q&A session at the very end. So stick with me and I will be more than happy to take your questions at the end. So without further ado, let's get started. So I will be talking about the admissions process and how to apply for a few different things such as housing, FAFSA, a visa, eventually moving to London. So I know I don't sound British. It's because I'm not. I'm actually from America, and I studied at UEL. I've just recently graduated, and I now work for UEL. So I know how it feels, you know, to be a senior in high school, applying for colleges. Where do I begin? And all of that jazz. So I'm going to take you through my experience. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So the main benefits of studying at the University of East London, I've listed quite a few here, but these are definitely the reasons why we are seeing more and more Americans choose to study in England. It's these reasons right here are definitely the reasons that I chose to study in the UK and not in the US. I think the most notable reason is because it only takes 3 years to complete your bachelor's degree compared to 4 in the US. And if you ask me, I definitely was intrigued by the idea of graduating early, graduating with honors, and I can talk more about that at the very end. But one of the reasons why our degrees are only 3 years instead of 4 is because we don't require general education studies. So typically when you start college in the US, you'll be taking all of the different kind of subjects. But when you study at UEL, you are studying your dedicated subject from day one. So whether that's sport exercise science, whether that's psychology or biomedical science, you will only study your dedicated subject. So for those students who already know what they want to study, that's probably, I hope that's really amazing news for you guys. And for anyone that might be undecided, I know I was a little undecided in my senior year. We can definitely talk more about that, and I'd be super happy to give you the advice that I give students who aren't quite sure yet what they want to study. But I studied clinical psychology, and so from day one I was only taking psychology classes, which I really, really enjoyed. I think when you are studying the one thing that you truly care about, it definitely makes a world of difference. And with every class I was super engaged in, and I was always looking forward to each of my classes because it's what I wanted to study. So I don't know about you guys, but I did not do well with math in high school. So knowing that I did not have to take a math class again, I was super jazzed about. But on top of all of that, it's actually much more cost effective to study in the UK. I know that college tuition fees are not cheap, especially out-of-state tuition fees. So let alone like out of the country tuition fees, we probably think that it's something that's so unattainable. But to be quite honest with you, it's actually very, very cost effective. So tuition fees are literally just 17,500 US dollars per year. It really depends on the exchange rate, but you can expect to pay no more than 17,500 per year for your tuition fees. The textbooks are included in your fees, which is really, really nice. So you and your parents don't have to, shell out extra money for each textbook that you'll need for your courses. And then we are also one of the few UK universities that accepts FAFSA. So as a US citizen, you guys will qualify for some type of federal aid from the US government. I know I did, I know most Americans do. And so the fact that UEL accepted my FAFSA, it definitely made the whole idea of studying in London that much more of a reality for me. And there are other reasons listed, but I'm not going to go through all of them. Let's continue. But before I move on, I just wanted to let everyone know that it's free to apply to the University of East London. So with that being said, you actually don't have anything to lose. So the application in itself, it's pretty straightforward. It's not too long. If you have applied to any college on Common App before, you'll be very familiar with our application because it is on Common App. And like I said, it's free. So you can apply either on Common App or through our website. But if you ask me, it's probably going to be more straightforward if you apply on Common App. So that brings us to our entry requirements. So there's mainly two things that you need. You need either a 3.0 GPA or one of the following test scores. So whether that's a 1070 on the SAT or a 23 on the ACT or 3 AP scores of 3 or above, these are just the bare minimum. So if you exceed these entry requirements, no sweat, that is amazing. And so if these are the essential entry requirements, some programs will have an additional requirement. For example, fashion marketing or dance, they will have like an interview or a portfolio or an e-audition, and we will definitely let you know what's expected of you when you receive the outcome of your application. We also work on a sliding scale, so don't worry if you don't meet these exact scores or if you haven't taken any of the exams yet, don't worry. So if you don't meet our exact requirements, for example, if someone has below a 3.0 GPA, but also a higher test score, they kind of balance each other out, and vice versa for a lower test score and a higher GPA. But we can definitely talk more about that at the end if you have any specific questions or if you're curious on where you stand with regards to admission. So the admissions process, I've actually included my offer letter from UEL just to give you guys an example of what it looks like. Most seniors will typically start out with a conditional offer with us. The difference between a conditional and an unconditional offer, both basically say that you have a place at UEL. The only difference is a conditional offer will say, hey, congratulations, you've made it. We have a place for you. Just send us your diploma when you graduate, and it will list other documents you need to send. Whereas the unconditional offer will say, hey, congratulations, you've made it in. Here are your next steps. The next step would be to pay the deposit, receive your CAS letter, and so on. But both mean that there is a place for you here. I don't think we really do a conditional and unconditional system in the US. It is something that's very common with British universities, but just know that at the end of the day, both mean that there's a place for you. Applying for housing. So one of the really nice things about UEL is that we actually have accommodation on campus. I know you're probably thinking, but doesn't every university have accommodation on campus? The answer is no. So in London, it is actually quite rare to have accommodation on campus. It's typically an accommodation building will typically be in one part of London, and then your lectures will be in another part of London. So you'll wake up in one part, get the bus or the train to the other part of London, and on any day that you have classes, you can expect to be traveling back and forth. Whereas at the University of East London, it's an all-inclusive campus. So you can expect to wake up right on the water. We are located right on the Docklands, right on the Thames River. So you can expect to wake up to that gorgeous view of the river and of London and literally just walk 5 minutes to your classes. Or if you are studying on another campus, we do have 3 campuses, the University of East London. They're all in East London. You can get the shuttle bus, and it's just a 20-minute bus ride to the other campus. And it's a UEL shuttle bus, so only students will be taking it. But so just to give an example, I would wake up on the Docklands campus, make breakfast, catch the bus to the Stratford campus. And it was a really, really nice trip. I enjoyed my bus trips to class. And then, yeah, but one of the, getting into like the specifics about housing, everyone gets their own room and their own private bathroom and shower. It's something I get super excited telling everyone about, especially the girls, because we just don't have that in America. I think if you go to college in the US, you're gonna have a roommate, you're gonna have to share. So for those of you that like having your own space, UEL definitely offers that for you and more. So when you do live on campus, you'll only be expected to share the kitchen. And even then, you're not sharing with that many other students. You can expect to share between 3 to 5 other students, but the room, the bathroom, the shower, it's all yours, which is really, really nice. Or I really enjoyed that as my time as a student. Applying for FAFSA. There is quite a bit of information on this slide, but the biggest kind of takeaways would be for you guys to know that we do accept FAFSA. And the other thing is that because we are an international school, there is a bit of paperwork involved when it comes to transferring your loan from the US to the UK. And just know that we will be there for you every step of the way. Me personally, I thought the FAFSA process was a little confusing when I was a student, but that's why we have a federal aid officer there, and his role is basically to work with all of our students with their FAFSA paperwork. So UEL is definitely there for you with every step, with every different aspect of the applications process. So if you ever do get stuck on any part of the admissions process, whether that's the initial application or FAFSA, someone at UEL will be there to help you. So I'm not going to go super into depth on the slide. I can talk all about FAFSA all day long, but just know that 1, we do accept it, and 2, there will be more paperwork involved, and you're probably going to need your parents' help with that. And if you do have any questions, there is an email right here at the bottom, federalaid@uel.ac.uk. So that's a dedicated inbox for anything relating to FAFSA queries. Applying for a visa. So if you're American, have an American passport, you can expect to apply for a visa. This applies to everyone except for anyone that might have a British or a European passport, anyone that has dual citizenship with a European country and also has that European passport, you don't need to apply for a visa. It's just for us Americans who just have one passport. That's okay. So in order to get your visa, you need something called a CAS letter. It stands for Confirmation of Acceptance for Studies. It's basically like a long code, and it's essentially the key to starting your visa application. So just know that you'll need a CAS letter to apply for your visa. We issue CAS letters at the end of your senior year. So after you graduate, that's when you can expect to start the visa application process. I'll talk about the fees that are involved with applying for a visa. So all of these fees are in British pounds. So you can expect to pay £348 for the actual application fee. And then just below, it's the Immigration Health Surcharge, or IHS for short. What that is it's essentially your health care in the UK. So it's £400 per year, and it covers your health care for the entirety of your studies. So the application fee and the healthcare, you would pay it all together at the start of your visa application, so before you actually make it over to London. And I've also listed the total amounts below. So for a foundation year student, for someone who is studying with us for 4 years, they can expect to pay just under £2,000. For an undergraduate student who will be studying with us for 3 years, they can expect to pay around £1,600. And we can talk more about what a foundation year is and like what an undergraduate is. We can talk more about that at the end. But then also postgraduates, if it's 1 year and 2 years, those are the figures below. And yes, we can talk more about that at the end. So moving to London. So yeah, the summer after your senior year, there's a lot going on. And one of the final things you need to think about before you actually move over is packing. We can definitely talk all about packing closer to the date, but I just wanted to touch on these. I personally recommend bringing 1 or 2 suitcases. It's up to you if you want to bring more. Just keep in mind that, you know, whatever you bring, you're gonna have to carry with you when you travel. So if you're like me, I like traveling light, but if you don't mind carrying another suitcase, all the more power to you. But I tell all of our students to just pack the essentials. I know it can be a little daunting, you know, being an 18-year-old student and saying, I've never moved anywhere before, I've never moved to a different country, I don't know what to bring, should I bring everything? I definitely had that mindset when I first moved to London, and looking back now, I can literally tell you that I did not wear half of the clothes I brought with me the first time around. So definitely just bring essentials, bring your favorite clothes. If you have to, you know, narrow it down to what you have to bring a winter coat. So if you live in Ohio, I'm sure you guys are probably used to like cold winters, but for me, I'm from California and it literally doesn't drop below 70 degrees. So when I first moved to London, it was my first winter in London was a bit of a shock for me just because I did not know what cold weather was until I moved to London. So I'm sure you guys will know what to expect with the cold weather, but for anyone who is not used to the cold weather, definitely keep that in mind. That's like my tip to you. But once you get settled in, we will help you set up a phone plan, opening up a bank account, registering with a doctor. We typically offer airport pickup, so definitely take advantage of that. So if you book your flight to arrive on a certain day, UEL will actually pick you up and drive you over to campus. They did that for me when I first arrived, which was really, really nice because I had never traveled by myself before. So seeing someone there waiting for me at the arrivals was definitely, I guess, a sigh of relief. And yeah, just before I move on, if you've read the bottom sentence, I do send out an arrival guide. It's essentially a very long email from me. Apologies in advance. But it's like a packing list, things to know before your flight, things to know after your flight. And I typically send that just a week or two before you plan to fly out. So yeah, just keep that in the back of your mind. We're thinking far ahead, but I definitely want to give you guys an overview of everything that there is to expect when you're applying and when you finally do make it over. So when you do make it over, you'll be allowed to work part-time as an international student. So that means 20 hours per week during the school year. If there are any school vacations, such as like Christmas or reading week, or summer, you are allowed to work full-time. And a typical class schedule for an undergrad, you guys can expect to have classes between 3 and 4 days a week. When I was in my first year, I only had class 3 days a week, which was really, really nice because that meant I had 4-day weekends. So with that extra time, obviously that's dedicated to your studies, and you can also, what I would advise you guys to do is explore London as much as you can. And if you ever do get tired of exploring London, to be quite honest with you, I don't know anyone that's ever fully explored London. You can definitely take advantage of traveling Europe. So with us being right on Europe's doorstep, it is so easy to just get a flight or get a train, and you can get it for really cheap too compared to the US. If you book ahead, you can get a flight for maybe $20. You can get it's like a 2-hour flight to Barcelona and a 2.5-hour train ride to Paris. So if you love to travel, that's really exciting. And it's something that's super exciting that you have to look forward to if you do choose to study at UEL. And then placements and internships, I highly recommend to everyone to go after industry related experience. So for example, if you study psychology, you could get a placement with the NHS. The NHS is the National Health Service, so it's our network of hospitals in the UK. For example, if I studied clinical psychology, I did my placement with PSC. So PSC, it stands for Psychologists for Social Change. They are a national network of psychologists in the UK, and I was working closely with the London chapter, attending their meetings and kind of just learning from them and what they do. So whatever you want to study, whether that's psychology or fashion or physiotherapy, you can expect to have placements and internships, opportunities made available to you. You definitely have to put yourself out there to get those internships, but it's definitely going to be worth it in the end. It's going to be something you can add on your resume. You know, not only did you get an international degree, but you also have international work experience, which definitely gives you the edge when you go back to America or whenever you do apply for your first real job after college. It definitely gives you that edge. So it's always good to kind of plan ahead. Sports. I will say right off the bat, I am not the biggest sports-minded person, so I'll probably breeze through this slide pretty quickly. But before I jump in, so this is actually a photo of Team USA during the London 2012 Olympics. We hosted them. They used UEL as their base during the Olympics. They trained on our campus. So it's super, super exciting. Even if you're not the biggest sports fan, you know, just knowing that Team USA was there, as an American, you can definitely feel some type of pride there. And for anyone that's a huge basketball fan, they always get really excited knowing that that's the same court that Team USA played on. UEL is definitely one of the best universities in the UK for sports. We are one of the best in London. So for anyone that is, sports minded, really great for you. And if you're not sports minded, there is definitely opportunities for you to get involved. For example, we have like free yoga, free boxing, Pilates. There's so many different ways that you can get involved. UEL has so many different opportunities for its students, but at the end of the day, I will say it is really up to you personally to take advantage of all of everything that UEL has to offer. So if you've never played a sport in college before, or never played a sport before, and you want to start it in college, you can definitely do that at UEL. I feel like in the US, we probably wouldn't think that we'd be able to do that if we didn't play in high school. But UEL is very inclusive of all of its students in so many different ways. So if you did want to try a new sport, definitely try out, and we will place you based on where your expertise is. So for example, our basketball men's team have 4 different teams. So boys, you will be placed, wherever your experience lays. And if you are big on sports, this is probably like heaven for you. But if you're not super big on sports, you never know, you could pick up a new sport and it could be your new favorite thing. Traveling. So in the US, I know we're so used to traveling by cars, but in London, they rely heavily on public transport. That's because London has such an amazingly built public transport system. No one in London actually really drives a car. I don't know that many people who even do drive a car. Everyone relies on the train. And I know that like in America, we don't really have that great of a public transport system. So most of us probably haven't used it before. And to be quite honest with you, when I moved over, I was a little scared to, take a bus, take a train, just because I had never done it before, or I had very little experience. And once I actually learned my way around public transport, I was using it all the time. I was never in my dorm. I was always out exploring. If you ask anyone who knows me, I love to be on the go. So that's definitely one of the things to look forward to, traveling London, traveling England, and eventually traveling Europe. Post-study plans. So this is thinking way in advance, but if you decide to stay on for your master's, you will receive an alumni scholarship. It's about like 10 or 15% off of your tuition fees. So most students will actually stay on for their master's because of not only the scholarship, but the fact that it only takes 1 or 2 years. So in just 4 years of studying in the UK, you can earn 2 degrees. Whereas if you wanted to get your bachelor's and your master's in the US, it would take you at least 6 years. So 4 years for your undergrad and then 2 years for your master's. So for anyone that loves to get ahead, studying in England might be the option for you. And right now, the British government is reintroducing the post-study work visa. It's something that they did a few years ago, and because it was so popular, everyone wants them to do it again. So what it is, it's essentially 2 years of working in the UK. So after you graduate, if you apply for the post-study work visa, you can stay in the UK and gain work experience for 2 more years, which is, I know it doesn't seem like a lot now, but if you have a job, or if you know just how valuable that is, it's something that people from all over the world, they are looking to apply for this type of visa. And yeah, you guys literally have no idea all of the different amazing things that wait for you. Without getting like too ahead of myself, but let's move on. So that actually brings us to the end of our presentation sort of part. This is our queen. I had to include a picture of her, but if you guys have any questions, we are going to do a 15-minute like Q&A session, but anything that you have questions about, feel free to take a picture of this slide, take a picture of your screen. This is my email. This is also my phone number. So if you guys or if your parents want to give me a call and talk about UEL, see if it's the right fit, you are definitely more than welcome to email me or call me. This is also the North American team Instagram. So it's follow me to East London. UEL, of course, has its own Instagram account, but my team, actually, we have our own Instagram, and we use it mainly for American students to meet each other. So for example, all of our first year fall 2020 students, I have put a lot of them in this group chat on Instagram, which was really, really nice just because this whole summer they've been talking to each other, getting to know each other, and that way, because they're all flying over to London right about now, they have an immediate group of friends. So it's just another, because I was a student, I know, how it feels to be applying to a school that's in a different country, not knowing anyone, coming and, having to start over. So being able to, come over and have friends right off the bat, it definitely helps you guys when you do eventually transition over. But that brings us to the end of the presentation portion. So we are just going to move on to the live question and answer session. So I'm going to hand things over to Annabelle.
Thanks very much, Caitlin, for such a great presentation. And I hope our attendees enjoyed all that Caitlin mentioned, and also bringing in a lot of her personal experience. So as Caitlin mentioned, please feel free to ask any questions. I've popped down some questions that I think would be helpful to start off with, and then we'll wait for other ones to trickle in. So Caitlin, can you clarify how long does it take for a student to get an unconditional offer once they receive their conditional offer?
So typically, high school seniors, you can expect to have a conditional offer throughout all of your senior year. And then once you finally graduate and you have your diploma, if you have taken all of your tests, if you have a valid passport, once you send us your final transcript and your diploma, you're able to then receive your unconditional offer, and it doesn't take too long for you to receive it. So I would say it might take you 1 or 2 weeks to get that offer switched over, depending on how busy our admissions team is. We do have students from all over the world who study at UEL, so it typically just takes 1 to 2 weeks for us to switch your offer from conditional to unconditional.
Great, thank you. And then Kate has asked, are there any study abroad programs? I presume this is in regards to short-term study abroad programs.
Actually, yes. So not only are you doing your degree abroad, but there are definitely opportunities for you to even study abroad during your degree abroad. So for example, if you study fashion, the fashion students take field trips to Paris, and I literally cannot be more jealous of them. So it really depends on what you're studying, but there are also opportunities outside of your course to study abroad. So for example, UEL just recently signed a partnership deal with an Australian university. So just a few months ago, they were rounding up students to go study in Australia. So yes, there are definitely study abroad opportunities at UEL.
Fantastic. And then Kirsten asks, do I need my visa and passport before I apply?
No, not before you apply. So I'm going to answer it kind of in two different sections. So you will need a passport to get a visa. You're not going to get both at the same time. I mean, hopefully you're not going to get both at the same time. So if you are looking to, study in a different country, I would definitely look at applying for a passport now, just because it might take a bit of time to get it. So, and even if, you're not going to study, somewhere really far away, just go ahead and get your passport now, because you never know when you're going to need it. So get your passport now if you don't have one. And, by the end of your senior year, you will definitely have your passport. And then after you've graduated high school, that's when you can kind of start thinking about the visa process. And that's when you can, actually start to apply for it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Caitlin. And then we have another question. What is the student life like at UEL?
It's really, really fun, if I do say so myself. So British people are super, super friendly. Not only are there British students, there are actually a lot of international students at UEL. And I know I'm a little biased when I say this, but I find that a lot of people really like the American accent. I know it sounds strange, like why would they like our accent? We say y'all and stuff, but they actually really like our accent. So the fact, just speaking from personal experience, just the fact that, I'm American, I obviously sound American. Whenever I meet people, even to this day in the UK, it's an instant conversation starter. And everyone is just like, oh my gosh, you're from America, and they just want to talk to you. And so it is definitely super easy to make friends.
That's great to hear. And then another question, is the UK higher education system similar to the US system in your opinion?
They're both two very different systems. So I can definitely speak about the UK. The US, I feel like I have an outsider's point of view just because I didn't go to college in America. But I would say the biggest thing that it has in common is, college, regardless of wherever you are, it's the time in your life where you are really becoming your own person. You have the ability to make all of your decisions, and most of the time your parents aren't there to kind of guide you. So it's similar with that respect, but totally different just because, you're not taking general education in the UK. So I only ever took psychology classes. And I think because you have so much time, you can literally expect to spend half of your time in the classroom and half of your time outside of the classroom. So that time outside of the classroom, it is free for you to do what you please. That's why you have to have good time management. You need to be able to manage your studies, but then you're also able to, explore London, hang out with your friends, travel Europe. So it is very different in that respect. So for example, American students, you guys, for example, when you make plans with your friends, you're probably like, hey, do you want to go to the mall? Do you want to watch a movie? Do you want to go to the football game with me? But, when you're studying in the UK and you have friends from all over the world, you can say, hey, do you want to go to Paris with me? Do you want to go to Italy with me? And I don't know any of my American friends who have really had that luxury during college. So I would say that's how I would compare studying in the US and studying in the UK.
That's great. Thanks so much, Caitlin. We've had a question in from Kate who asks, is UEL more of a commuter university, or are there lots of people on campus?
Ooh, so there's a lot of people on campus. So we fill up all of our dorm rooms every year. But I will say that most of the people who live on campus are either international students or they come from a further part of England that might be several hours away. So during like Monday to Friday, it's super packed with students, you know, attending classes. And then on the weekends, I find that most students are out exploring the city. You know, during the weekends when you don't have classes, obviously you can stay in your dorm and relax and unwind, but most students will be out exploring London.
Fantastic. Thanks, Caitlin. And then another question is, should I be concerned about studying abroad or pursuing my degree internationally, considering COVID-19?
So that is a very, you know, touchy question. The answer is going to differ for everyone. Let's put it this way. You know, there's so many things to think about, thinking about your family, thinking about your own safety. If you decide to put off college for 1 year, maybe stay home or just take a gap year altogether, you are essentially just taking a 1 year kind of break from life. You're kind of getting a year behind on college, a year behind on your first job, a year behind on everything. And I know it's a certain way to look at it, but that's kind of how I would look at things. So I'm kind of in that similar position because I have just finished my bachelor's. So I'm thinking, oh, do I want to go into my master's? Do I want to take a gap year? But for anyone, to answer your question, it really depends on you, your family, your specific circumstance. And if you think it's the best thing for you to stay home, then only you know what's best for you. But if you ask, you know, if you're asking me, if you're asking one of your favorite high school teachers, they might have something different to say and they might, you know, encourage you otherwise. I know when I was in my senior year, obviously COVID wasn't a thing, but when I did have, you know, fears about, you know, going to college in a different country, my English teacher, who was like my second mom, she pushed me really hard in high school. She made me take all of my hard classes. She pushed me to go to London. And although I was really, you know, frightened at the time, you know, being only 18 years old, not really knowing, you know, how the world works beyond my own little like life outside of, you know, my life, I'm really glad that I took advantage of this opportunity, because if you told me that I would have met, you know, my amazing friends, that I would have started like a job that I love, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have told you that that's too good to be true. I know it's a long-winded answer. I think the main takeaways are, you know what's best for you. And if you don't, you know, you have people there that you can consult with. So whether that's my team, whether that's me or Annabelle, or whether that's your teachers or your coach, definitely think about it, and don't let, you know, one thing hold you back. So even if that is COVID-19, I can tell you that there are still students who are studying, you know, in the UK, who have decided to come in for fall 2020. And before I even, you know, started this college fair today, I was speaking with one of our new students who has just arrived in London, and she's feeling a bit homesick, but she's really glad that she made this jump. And so I hope that answers your question. Oh, Annabelle, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you. That's all the questions that we had. So yeah, thank you so much, Caitlin, for that presentation.
Wonderful. Well, Caitlin and Annabelle, thank you for sharing information about your university. Participants, I do ask that you stay on after I end the webinar. There's a 4-question survey on behalf of the organization and StriveScan. We'd appreciate it if you take that. There are more sessions that are upcoming that you can register for at oacac.org. And then any of the sessions that have already been conducted and those that have yet to occur, those recordings will be on demand as well. I appreciate it greatly, and I hope that you all enjoy the rest of your day, and we hope to see you on another session. Thank you.